everybody, and welcome to Through the Looking Glass with Martha. I am Martha Davis Alexander. I am a recovering attorney and a certified fearless living coach. I coach adult children of divorce, and I coach heart-centered women entrepreneurs as a business coach. So tonight's show is all about setting boundaries. How do you set boundaries? Now, we've kind of touched on this a little bit when I talk about people pleasing or some of the other stuff. Tonight, I lost you somehow. Sorry, I don't know what happened. So tonight, I want to delve into something that really hit me in the face in the last 2 weeks, and that's setting internal boundaries. So what my business coach said is I'm like a horse that once I get the reins, I just go. And I like shiny objects, so I can turn direction at a dime. And that's not really what you want to do. You want to set boundaries not only with other people, but in your own mind and for yourself. Now, because I am a child of divorce, I actually don't like boundaries at all. I had a lot of boundaries. I had a lot of things that I repressed. I had a lot of stuff in there. And I talk about the long-term impact of divorce on kids. That is one of my main topics. Boundaries are one of them. Setting boundaries as a kid of divorce outside, right, for yourself and with others, it is really hard because, well, let's face it, I spent my childhood not rocking the boat, people pleasing, making sure that everybody else was okay, hiding things from one parent to another. So I didn't have a great example of how to set boundaries and how to say, yeah, no, I'm not interested in what mom did, or yeah, no, I'm not interested in what dad did. I'm just not interested. My relation is separate. So I didn't really learn setting boundaries or being constricted. Even if you ask my husband, I just really don't like boundaries. I stick to boundaries sometimes, but I like money. I've had to really start to learn to set them. And that's what I want to share with you tonight. Before you can set a boundary, you got to know what your intention is, where you want to go, and what you want to do, right? You got to know what the whole thing is about, what you want and need. Could also be the reason why boundaries are so hard for me personally, because I spent my lifetime not knowing what I wanted or needing, or saying what I want or need. I spent a lifetime doing that. And so knowing intentionally what steps I want to take, or what lanes I want, right? What those boundary lines are for other people in my life, for myself in my life, was really a foreign concept. It was almost like learning a foreign language for me. Here's what I learned. Living intentionally, having those boundaries is the most freeing thing you can do. It sets you free to know that you've already decided you don't want to do X, Y, and Z. And you've already come up with why you don't want to do it and how you're going to respond if someone asks you to do X, Y, and Z. It's completely freeing. It sets you free to live intentionally how you want to live in the lanes you choose. They don't have to be narrow. They can be huge lanes. You can have whatever size lane you want. You're in charge of your lane, which I love. I love being in charge of my own lane. So for me, this last couple of weeks, I didn't set boundaries on some stuff. I didn't have clear cut. I had a general idea. This is what I want to do, and this is how I'm going to do it. And these are the goals that I have. And in September, October, I went a little overboard on overextending what my commitments were to new things. So I'm writing a book on being a child of divorce and how to overcome some stuff. And why I started it right now, I don't know. I know what I want to do. I have parts of it done, and I need to put that on hold for a little bit. I also want to do an online course. Again, I entered a course, and I need to put that on hold. I need to pick intentionally the time that I am going to devote to that. I don't have more than 24 hours in a day, and I need 8 hours of sleep. So while I'm happy to get up at 6 and hit my desk at 6:30 after I fed the dogs and gotten a cup of tea, I only have so much time. Most of my time is pretty much booked. I have lots to do in my business, and I found I needed to intentionally set what my time is. I need to set boundaries on what my time is and what I'm willing to devote my time to. How about you? So that's one thing that I want to set. I have boundaries on what foods give me energy and what foods don't give me energy. Gluten doesn't give me energy, and I got to tell you, I'm a huge fan of bread. Bread, fresh out of the oven. I am a bread fiend. So I set boundaries, and I don't deny myself completely. I don't have celiac disease, and I know that when I eat bread, I may not feel as energetic the next day. So I need to pick my days. I need to set a boundary. I need to know intentionally, I'm going to eat this. It may have an issue for me. And so, right. Same with, being out in the sun, right? I have a boundary. I'm very pale. And I get sunburned really easily. So it's really easy for me to set that one, because when I'm in the heat, I melt like a little puddle of nothing, like a little puddle of mush when I'm in the heat. So it's really easy for me to say, yeah, I'm not going out there. I'm not going to go play pickleball. I'm just not going to do it. It's too hot for me. Those are boundaries. Right? Those are boundaries that you set. That's, what do I need for me? What do I want for me? And setting an intention. And I learned this through Rhonda Britton's Fearless Living program. An intention, if you start it with, I'm willing to practice, it makes it so much less daunting. You're willing to practice something. Practice means you don't have to be perfect. Practice means you can make mistakes all the time. Kind of cracks me up. Think about it. Attorneys practice law and doctors practice medicine. The rest of us, I don't know what we do, but we need to start saying we practice this. We practice being intentional. We practice setting our lane. So my lane, as I set my intentions, is what can I accomplish between now, which we're in November almost. We're a few days from November. We got one day of the week left that's in October, and then we start Monday in November already. What do I want to accomplish in the last 60 days of 2021? What do I want to accomplish? What is it that I want to put my energy toward? What is my intention? What are my goals for that? Those are setting boundaries. Those, for me, those are there are no more squirrels this year. You don't get to chase shiny objects. So the squirrel thing, I for those of you who aren't familiar, it's a saying that, you know, we chase squirrels like a dog can get distracted by a squirrel and just go, where? I'm not chasing. I am moving intentionally towards something. And I intentionally designed the end of my year to move towards something, to move forward, not distractions. I'm not taking any detours, no more detours in 2021. I am moving solidly forward, and that is my internal boundary, right? So how do you set an internal boundary? I've done a lot of talking, and so let me simplify as best I can. I always start with decide who you want to be and how you want to show up, right? And you can journal that, right? Do you want to be someone who's optimistic? Do you want to be someone who has goals and finishes their goals? Do you want to have income? Who do you want to be and how do you want to show up? What are your goals? Short term, long term. What do you want? What do you get joy out of? What do you need in order to accomplish those things? What are things that you need in place to do that? What is the structure that you're going to move forward in? So for me, I absolutely have a no boundaries, and I needed to take a few things off my list now and defer them to a time when it works better for me. What is that for you in setting boundaries between now and the end of the year and even into the new year? What are those boundaries? It's not the same as goals. It's not the same as prioritizing. It's setting up your lane, right? Staying in your lane. It's setting up that lane. I can't figure this camera out. It's setting up your lane to know that this is the path to get you where you want to go. And having those, almost like having bumpers on a bowling alley, right? You have the bumpers so kids don't get in the gutter. For me, my boundaries between now and the end of the year are my bumper. I'm not making a turn off. I'm bumpered. I can bounce off those bumpers and keep moving because I set those boundaries. And internal boundaries are really important to get you where you want to go. And there are habits you can set to get those boundaries. And it all starts with what do you need? What do you need to focus on? What's your goal? And how are you going to get there? Okay. So setting boundaries with somebody else. I talked about this a little bit when I was talking about having in communication and again about people pleasing. Those again start with who are you? How do you want to show up? What do you want? What do you need? So whether you sit and write those answers down, whether you talk it out with somebody, whether you type it on the computer or just think about it in your head. It's better if you write at least some of it so that you have a solid foundation. I always find when I write, it lasts longer. That's why writing goals is so important. So in setting your boundaries, you start there. So you start there for every aspect of your life, whatever it is. What do you need? What do you want? What's working? What isn't working? Right? So just kind of a download of your information. And it may take a couple of days to percolate on it, to think about it, to noodle it, to really get clear on what that is and what you want. like I said, it sometimes takes me a long time to figure out what I want, because that isn't a part of me that I developed as a kid. It just isn't. So if you spend some time figuring those things out, that basic foundation out, then you get a say. So this is what I want. Is this something that works for me? So let's take, for instance, a relationship. There are some people who have friendships that they need to be in contact with that person every day. That's not me. I don't need that. That's not one of my boundaries. I can pick up the phone and talk to someone I haven't talked to in 20 years and pick up right where we left off, if they're of the same mind. And if out of a friendship, what you need is that daily contact, that daily thing, that's a boundary. That's something that you need to say, I need this. And then know that it may be somebody else's boundary to say, I can't give you that. You're going to have to look for that in somebody else. I'd love to still be your friend. I have friends who they have boundaries about religion. I have no boundaries about religion. I'll be friends with anybody, anytime, anywhere, anyhow. So people, when you have boundaries, I don't like the religion one. I don't like that one, because that one really kind of offends me. And I don't want to offend anybody else. It's not being closed-minded. It's doing what works for you. Now let me just set out there that it doesn't mean you get to stay in your comfort zone and set boundaries that don't stretch you or give you risks or have you grow in confidence or grow as a person. And it does mean that there are certain boundaries. For instance, and this is going to be a little embarrassing. I don't even know if I can talk about this on the radio. That's interesting. CC, I'm sure you'll let me know. I was getting to know a young man when I was in law school. Had a few phone calls, and he immediately went into a discussion about things that he expected, preferred, wanted sexually. And some of them were like, that's a deal breaker for me. It's not that it's bad. It's a deal breaker for me. I'm not interested in that, but thank you for the offer, and we can still be friends. Knowing what your boundaries are, what you're interested in, what works for you, and what feels good for you, right? Those are so important in beginning new relationships, right? What do you expect? What do you want? What are you looking for? What are things that are non-negotiable for you? There are lots of things that are non-negotiable for me. Lots of things that are non-negotiable for me. In my friends, there are lots of things that are completely negotiable that I'm open, and I'm like, I'm really curious as to what that means to you. What is it that works in your life, and how do you set boundaries to make sure that people don't come at it a different way, right? So let's go to Thanksgiving. It's right around the corner. Not my favorite holiday. And let's go to Thanksgiving for a second. So sorry, I'm just checking the time. We have a lot of boundaries when we go to a family dinner, right? So I am not going to a family dinner this year, which is great because I just stopped drinking in August. Not that I mean, a couple glasses of wine every night, sometimes sometimes more. So there's a tendency for alcoholism in my family, and sometimes it has in my life taken over. So my boundary is no alcohol, and that's hard in a big family gathering for me. So one of my boundaries is we're not doing a family thing this year. I need about a year under my belt before I can handle that for me. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about more personal boundaries and more setting boundaries with others and what a boundary looks like and what tools you can use from within you to stick to those boundaries. My name is Martha Davis Alexander, and this is Through the Looking Glass with Martha. You can reach me at marthadalexander@gmail.com or at 805-422-6865. I love to chat, and I love getting emails. Thank you for those I've gotten. I love them. And my website is throughtheLookingGlassWithMartha.com. We'll be back in just a minute. Enjoy the break, folks. Come back. Guys, welcome back. My name is Martha Davis Alexander. This show is Through the Looking Glass with Martha, and we're talking about how to set boundaries. So I'm going to summarize just a little bit from where we were, just to pull it kind of together, and that is we set boundaries for ourselves, right? Kind of like the bumpers on. I love that analogy. I don't know why that's tickling me right now. Bumpers on the bowling alley, and to keep us in our lane, to keep us focused and in one direction, as opposed to many of us have the shiny object and veer off. So we set those for that reason. How you set those is to decide really where you're headed and how you need to get there. And then evaluate every decision based upon whether it's going to move you forward towards that destination, or whether it is a distraction or something that needs to be done later or that can be done later. And right now, what is the most immediate goal? And then we talked a little bit about relationships and setting, and in order to do that in relationships with other people, with family, even for yourself, you have to decide what you want. And sometimes that's hard. For kids of divorce, and for women, that can be very difficult for us to set, what we want as opposed to what our kids might want or what whoever wants, right? And really deciding in yourself, what is it that you want? What is going to bring you joy? We get to live every day with joy if we choose. And setting those intentions for what it is we want in a relationship, right? What are we willing to accept? What aren't we willing to accept? So when I got married, which was 28 years ago, I had very specifics about who I was going to marry. Some of those are absolutely true. And I mean, there's no question I picked a fabulous man, just so y'all know. I adore him. And and we had to negotiate some stuff after we got married, right? It takes some negotiating and some having those hard conversations and knowing what I want and being intentional with where we're going and what our joint goals are, and being intentional with what we want out of the relationship, what we're willing to accept, what we're not willing to accept. And some of that just takes time. You can't ferret all that out on the first date. Sometimes it takes time. And sometimes after, 6 months, you might find something out and go, what? Where did that come from? That's not okay with me. And that's perfectly fine to say. You don't have to put up with something that is not okay with you. Keep in mind, if don't take any actions unless you're safe and in a safe place, please. And it's okay to set boundaries and say, no, that doesn't work for me. Not so much. I'm not going to do that. Or that I don't want to be a part of that. My husband isn't a big hunter. My dad was, right? And he took all of the boys hunting. I didn't really want to kill anything. I wanted to shoot guns. But I didn't really want to kill anything because, that just doesn't work for me. And I don't like the taste of it. And if I'm not going to eat it, I'm not going to shoot it. So really, what are your boundaries? And if you try something and you don't like it, are you willing to say, that's a boundary. I'm not going to do that again. That was not fun. I didn't enjoy sitting in the gear in the freezing cold and the rain to shoot a duck or a pheasant or anything else. What is it that works for you? And it really comes down again to being intentional with what you want. What works for you? And each of us has an absolute right to know what works for us and what doesn't work for us. We also have an obligation to ourselves to, unless there's a moral issue or physical issue or something strong, to try new things and to stretch and to, someone calls and invites you to go to something and you're like, ooh, I've never experienced that. That's not the reason to say no. Just know that's, I'm not giving you excuses not to grow and stretch out of your comfort zone. So don't let fear tell you I did say that, because I didn't. What I did say was find out what you like and don't like, and then say it. Say, hey, I need this. I need to know that I'm doing a good job. I need to know that this is girl. I need an atta girl sometimes. I had to tell someone that today. Hey, I need an atta girl. That's what I'm looking for. I appreciate, everything you did, and I still need the atta girl. And we all need that sometimes. We all need that reassurance. So setting boundaries in how people talk to you, right? How do people talk to you? That is a huge one. And setting those boundaries is really important. So how do you set a boundary with someone? How do you say, you don't get to say that to me? Well, if you say, you don't get to say that to me, they are going to get defensive. They are going to be like, oh, yeah, I can do anything I want, right? If you say, It makes me feel sad, mad, angry, disappointed, disgusted, offended, whatever word you want out of the feelings list, when you say X, Y, and Z to me. I really need to be treated with respect, and that doesn't feel like respect to me. Would you be willing to help me by saying ABC instead? So that's nonviolent communication, right? And it's hard to get defensive with nonviolent communication because all of your words are I feel or felt, I need. Would you be willing to help me? I felt or feel when blank happens. Not when you did blank, but when blank happens. Would you be willing to, I need you, or I need this instead, right? I need not to be called names. I need to be shown respect, or I need to feel like I'm respected, and I don't feel it when someone calls me whatever. Would you be willing to practice not calling me names, or practice telling me what you're really thinking instead of using names? Setting boundaries. If you want, those are the things, right? I don't accept a call after 9:30 at night. It's a boundary because that might rile me up. I don't argue with my husband after a certain time. We don't discuss things, or we try not to. There are certain ways you can't, that I don't want to be talked to. There are certain ways I do want to be talked to. And so it's really important to know what those are. And you don't have to know them all now. So here's your assignment for this week. For the next week, I want you to become aware of things that just rub you the wrong way. Someone brushing past you in a store, or someone, walking too close to you, or whatever it is. And decide, is that a boundary? Do I have a boundary where now I need people to stay 6 feet away from me because, it's been 2 years and that's what keeps happening, right? Or 18 months, whatever it's been. Do I need, what do I need? What are boundaries I need for me as you're going out? Is it okay if some stranger talks to you? For me, that's perfectly fine. For my children, it is not fine. They do not, and they're adults. They do not like to be talked to by strangers very much. It's just not their thing. I love to have a random conversation with whoever. So I start a lot of them. Maybe that's why my kids don't like it. So what is it that you enjoy? What you don't you enjoy? What do you want? In every situation, it's great to know those things, to get more information about what brings you joy and what doesn't. I didn't like it when my kids argued in the car. They didn't like it when I turned the radio up so high that I couldn't hear them anymore. So they stopped arguing. I'm not sure that was a great boundary, but it was a funny story and it popped in my head. What is it intentionally you want to start setting up in your life? People talking to you respectfully, people giving you attagirls, attaboys, people. What is it? What boundaries do you want? What things do you want to be your bumpers in life? What are your bumpers? What would help you get where you want to go? What do you need to set in place? Who do you need to talk to about it and have that conversation that says, hey, I felt when X happened. I need Y. Would you be willing to help me by doing? What conversations can be had? What things do you need to not do for a while in order to keep your own boundaries intact? For me, that's not going to family Thanksgiving, because it can sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes being in family situations can be stressful, particularly if there's, divorce and whatever. So I choose not to, until I know that I'm solidly grounded in sobriety. That is my commitment to myself. And I'm good with that. I set a boundary with my husband, as an example, that he doesn't get to bring wine into the house, because that's my downfall. I don't care if he drinks scotch. I don't care what else he drinks, beer, margaritas. I couldn't care less. I can avoid those all day long with my hot cup of tea. I would really have a hard time with wine. That is particularly white wine. That is a really hard thing for me. So I had to ask for him to do that for me. And that was a boundary that we set in our house, because that's what I needed. And he was good with it. What are things that you need that you are not getting, that you want to set some healthy boundaries around for you, with other people, in other relationships, and within yourself, for your own peace of mind and your own bumper staying on the right track? Because if you're like me and you do the bumper car or the shiny object, let's take a right turn fast, you get nowhere fast, but in a little zigzag. So what do you need in place to stick on that road for yourself? What do you need? What do you need to designate your lane, both with other people, in your business, in your personal life, with your goals? Boundaries impact every aspect of your life. And it is so amazing and awesome that we can intentionally set them for our own benefit. That we can say, this one's going to help me, and I choose this. I choose this as a boundary. How empowering is it for you to take control of what is your intentional life and to set your own boundaries, so that you remember when a shiny object comes, another course, a trip, whatever it is that comes that distracts you. For me, it's always online courses. I would take them until the cows came home. Yes, I'm from Iowa, hence the cows coming home. So what boundaries, what intentions will help you? What are those bumpers for you that keep you in your lane, that help you reach the sky's the limit, that help you get whatever you want, that help you reach those goals, that help you have happiness? Because it's through those boundaries. I need respect. You don't get to call me names, right? It's the negative things. If you can place boundaries in those to keep them out, how much more empowered, how much more positive, how much happier we would all be if we all set those intentional boundaries and bumpers to live by. And that is my goal for you. Become aware of areas where you might want to set a boundary. Journal it, write it, talk about it with a friend. And decide, practice from now until the end of the year. Just practice. What would happen if you practiced this? What could possibly change in your life if you practiced this? This is Martha Davis Alexander with Through the Looking Glass with Martha. The topic was how to set boundaries. How to set boundaries and where boundaries exist in your life and why they are so important. You can reach me at, phone number is 805-422-6865. It is my cell phone, so feel free to call. I do turn it to do not disturb at certain hours. My email account is Martha D for Davis, Martha D Alexander @gmail.com. And you can reach me at my website, throughthelookingglasswithmartha.com. You've been fabulous tonight. I thank you so much for joining me and how to set boundaries. And I wish you a very happy week. And I cannot wait to check back in with you next week and find out just how that went for you. Have a fabulous week, everybody. Bye-bye.